Have you ever walked through an empty apartment hallway and realized how creepy they can be? If you're into those found footage horror videos or love the backrooms vibe, this is the
perfect project for you.
In this tutorial series, I'm going to show you step by step on how to model, texture, and light a hauntingly realistic
Apartment hallway.
in that iconic VHS style, all in Blender. Oh, and don't worry, if you're working with a slower PC or laptop, this tutorial is optimized for quick rendering using Eevee, so even a potato machine can handle it. In this first part, we'll start from scratch by modeling the hallway and texturing all the objects using the BlenderKit add-on. In part 2, I'll show you how to create flickering wall lights, set up atmospheric lighting, and animate a handheld camera. In part 3, I'll walk you through the rendering process and show you how to achieve that retro found footage VHS look. In the final part, I will teach you how to import in a creature from Mixamo with 2 different animations and integrate it into your scene. Want to skip ahead or grab the finished files? You can download the complete project on my Patreon, including a bonus scene where a monster emerges from the shadows and runs at the camera. One more thing, don't forget to hit that like button right now and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future tutorials. Alright, let's dive into the tutorial and level up your 3D art skills. Hit A and then X to delete everything. Shift A, add in a mesh cube. This cube is going to be our hallway. Go to the -Y view and then hit Tab to go into edit mode. Then on your keyboard, hit G and then Z and then 1 to move it above the origin point. Enter. Now go back into object mode, hit N, and I'll make the hallway 20 meters long. I'm also going to make the hallway about 2.5 meters tall and 2.5 meters wide. Go into edit mode, select this face using the face select tool. So select this face, hit X, delete faces, and then select this face, hit X, delete faces. Now we'll select this face, hit P to separate the selection. Select this face, P, separate selection, select this face, P, separate selection, and then finally select this, P, separate selection. Go back into object mode, and now you have 4 separated objects. Select this object here, we'll rename it to wall_right. This is our left side wall, so rename it to wall_left. This is our ceiling, so rename it to ceiling. And then finally our floor. F2, rename it to floor. I also want to add a carpet as well, so we'll duplicate this floor by hitting Shift T to duplicate it and then Escape to set it back in place. We can hit F2, rename it to carpet. The carpet is going to be slightly smaller than the floor, so hit S and then X to scale on the X-axis, and we'll just scale it slightly. We also want it to be above the floor a little bit so it's not clipping, so go to the Z location, type in 0.01. Okay, now I want to add in a human model for referencing the scale because it's important to match this hallway with real world scale. Now, you don't have to do this. I just want to import in a human model so I could make sure the scaling of the hallway is correct. Now I'm going to start adding in some doorway cutouts on this right side wall here. But before I do that, I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to hit Ctrl R to add in a loop cut. Click and then hold Control. I will place the loop cut down here. Click. Okay, now I'm ready to start cutting holes into the wall. We first need a door. So let's hit Shift A, Mesh Cube. This is going to be our door. Let's hit N and we'll change the dimensions. So the X dimension is going to be 1 meter. The Z dimension, which is how tall the door is going to be 2.2 meters tall. We also got to change the Y depth here. So the Y depth is going to be 0.15. Now it's shaped like a door. Let's go to the -Y view and we'll place it above the X-axis. So hit G and then Z. And we'll also rotate it by 90 degrees. Now I want to place this door in between this wall here. So let's first rename this to door. Then I'll change the X location to be 1.25. Now select your right wall, go into edit mode, hit A to select everything, and then we're going to extrude it. So hit E to extrude, hold control, and I'll just extrude it this way, like this. Now, before I start cutting holes in the wall, I need to make sure the normals are facing the right direction. So let's go over here and turn on face orientation. And as you can see, we need this side to be blue here. So this wall is blue, which is good, but we also need this to be blue as well. So let's go into edit mode, hit A, and then hit Alt-N. We'll flip the normals. We'll do the same for this bottom floor right here, or this is the carpet. So go to edit mode, A, Alt-N, flip the normals. We got to do the same for the floor. Okay, now the normals are facing the right direction since the camera is going to be inside the hallway here. We need all of this to be blue. Okay, we can go back and turn off face orientation. And now we can start cutting in holes in this wall here. So to do that, select your right wall, go to the modifiers, and add a Boolean modifier. The object is going to be our door. Now, if you go into wireframe, you can see there is a cutout that's happening. Make sure your Boolean is on difference, and we could go back into solid mode. And to make sure this is applied, we need to apply the Boolean modifier on our right wall. So if you hit apply, now if you move your door, you can see there is a cutout in this wall here. So place your door back. Let's go into the X view. Let's start moving our door to the left here. So let's go into wireframe. Let's zoom out. Let's hit G and then Y. We're going to move it 3 units to the left, which is 3 meters. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll select our right wall again. We'll go to the modifiers and add in a Boolean modifier. Again, the object is going to be our door. And we'll just hit apply. Now to make sure there is a hole in the wall, we can just, of course, move our doorway, and there is our hole. To see this better, we can apply our cavity, and there we can see the cutout. Okay, now just repeat this for this entire side of the wall here. Okay, now let's make sure the cutouts are correct. So let's go into solid mode, and we can see there are cutouts on this entire wall right here, which is good. Okay, now let's move our door back to our first cutout right here. This is on the -Y view. Let's hide our door, and let's click on our right wall, go into edit mode. Let's select these faces here. So use the face select tool. Select this face, select, hold shift, and select this face, this face, this face. Okay, they're all selected. And then just hit X, delete faces. Now bring back your door, and we'll just move the door slightly inwards. And then we could duplicate this door by going to the array modifier right here. Then on the X factor, we can just change this to 3. And then we'll add in those doors for each cutout. Okay, now just hit A and then hit Control A to apply scale. Okay, now we're going to duplicate this right wall on this side as well, so we don't have to repeat that entire process on this side. So we can actually delete this wall here. Click on this wall, go to modifiers, add a mirror modifier. Then just hit apply. For the doors, we're just going to click on the doors and hit Shift D to duplicate them, escape to set them back in place, and we'll move them on the other side here. You can rename these doors to doors left side, and you can rename this to doors right side. Let's also select the floor and then hit S and then X to scale on the X axis, and we'll just fill in those gaps at the bottom. Okay, let's go to our shading tab and we'll change this to random for more color. I'm going to start adding in some little mini plaques on the doors to indicate which unit each door is. So we'll hit Shift A, add in a cube, then just hit S and then hold Shift and hit Z. And we'll scale like this. Hit S and then Z, scale on the Z axis. Okay, we'll bring it over and place it on our first door here. I'll place it right here. Now that might be too big, so I'm just going to hit S and scale down a bit. Go into edit mode, select this face here, and then we'll just hit I to inset and add a new face. And then I'm going to hit E to extrude inwards just a little bit. Let's go into Material Preview. So let's go to the Material tab, hit New. We'll make it fully metallic, and I'm going to give it a gold color. The roughness is going to be 0.2. Hit F2, rename it to Unit Number Plaque. Let's also quickly model a doorknob. So I'm going to hit Shift-A, add in a mesh circle. Then on your keyboard, hit Shift-H. So we can just focus on the doorknob. F2, rename it to Doorknob. Hit Tab to go into Edit mode. Let's use the Vertex Select mode. Hit F to add in a new face. Okay, now we can hit E to extrude up. Then hit I to add in a new face. E to extrude up again. And then I to add in another face. Hit E to extrude up. Then we'll hit Shift-A, add in a UV sphere. Hit G and then Z, bring it up. Let's use the Face Select tool. Go to Wireframe, and we'll delete these faces right here. Use the Line Select tool. Go back to Solid mode. Hold Alt and select this line here. Hit F to add in a new face. Hit I to add in a new face, and then hit E to extrude down. I to add in another face. E extrude up. Then I to add in another small face here. Another I. Then you can use the Face Select tool. Hold Alt, click here. And then X, delete faces. Then you can just select this face, go inside, and hit E to extrude down. Okay, now we just need to add a keyhole at the top here. So let's go to Z for top view. Let's give it a new material actually. Hit the plus icon to add in a new material. Go into Edit mode. Select this face only. Go to the new material that you just added. Hit New. Then go to Base Color. Go to Image Texture. Open. I'm going to temporarily add this metal lock image texture here. Link in the description. Go to Material Preview, and then just hit Assign. Hit U, Project from View. Let's open up a new window. Go to the UV editor, and we'll just position it correctly. Okay, now we can use the knife tool by hitting K on your keyboard, and we can start cutting out the shape of the keyhole here. Again, I think this is an unnecessary detail, especially for the type of scene I'm making, but that's okay. Then once you hit the last point, just hit Enter on your keyboard, and then we'll select the inside face, and then hit X, delete faces. Okay, now go back into object mode. On your material slot here, we don't need this anymore, so we can just hit the minus icon to delete that material slot. Okay, now go back to solid mode. We can collapse this window like this. Now you could just hit right click and then shade auto smooth, and your doorknob is complete. Now hit Alt H on your keyboard to bring everything back, and we can see that the doorknob here is way too big, so hit S and we'll scale it down. And then we can just bring it to our first door here. Hit N, we'll go and rotate it by 90 degrees. Let's do minus 90 actually. And make sure it's touching the door. Okay, so I think this part might be too long here, so we can fix that quickly by going into edit mode. Let's go into wireframe, and we can actually, let's select this entire part right here. We can actually hover over like this and hit L, and we can move it. Let's just select this part here, then hit G on your keyboard and then X, and we'll move it down. We'll select everything here again, and we'll just move it. Okay, I think that looks good. Just hit Control A, apply scale, and Control A, apply rotation. We can go to the modifiers and add a array modifier to duplicate them. Reduce the factor X to 0, and then the factor Y will be 60. And then we'll add 7, giving each door a doorknob. Let's do the same with the plaques. Add an array modifier, and then we can add in 7. You can hit Shift-D and duplicate them on the other side as well. Same thing with the doorknobs, just hit Shift-D to duplicate them, and we'll move them on this side. Okay, I don't need my character anymore, so I'm just gonna delete him. Okay, now let's move on to texturing. Okay, so to texture all my objects here, I'm gonna use an add-on called BlenderKit. Link in the description. You can download it for free, so make sure you download it and install it into Blender. Once you have it installed, make sure it's enabled. So I'm gonna enable it by going to Edit, Preferences. I'll search for BlenderKit, and then I'll checkmark this box to enable it. Save preferences, and then a search bar should pop up here. we're going to use the materials. I want to make this environment as flexible as possible in case you want to import it into a game engine like Unreal Engine. So, we want to make sure we're using texture-based materials only. We also want to limit the texture size. So let's limit the texture resolution to 2K, which is 2048 by 2048. Let's start with texturing our wall. So let's go into Material Preview. Select your wall. In BlenderKit, search for Basic Concrete. I'll be using this texture right here, but again, you can use any texture you like. You don't have to copy the exact same texture that I'm using, but if you just want to follow along, we can go ahead and click and drag this onto our wall. And boom, it's as easy as that. But we want to make sure these textures are UV unwrapped onto our objects. So let's go into Edit mode, deselect, and then hit A to make sure everything is selected, hit U, and instead of using the regular unwrap, I want to use the cube projection, which makes our texture way too big. So we can fix that by going to the top right corner, click and drag. Let's go to the UV editor to see what our UVs are looking like. Go into edit mode, and there it is. So for example, if I were to UV unwrap it using the regular unwrap, this is what it would look like. But I don't really like how the UVs are looking here, so I prefer to use cube projection. Let's hit A and then scale it up. Much better. Okay, now let's texture our door. So let's go and search for classic redwood. Enter. I'm going to use this wood light material. Click and drag onto your door. There we go. Now again, we want to go into edit mode and make sure it's UV unwrapped. So I'm going to use U and then we'll do cube projection again. But now the texture looks way too big, so to fix that, we're first going to go over here and I'm going to hit A and then hit R on my keyboard and then 90, enter to rotate the UV so it's going vertically like this. And then I'm going to scale it up again. So hit S and then scale up. I want to change the color of the door to red to match my reference photo right here, since in the reference photo, all the doors are this dark red color. So to do that, I'm going to go into the shader editor. I'm going to go and deselect first and then select this mix, and I'll hit X to delete it. I'm going to hit Shift A. I'll search for a hue and saturation value node. I'm going to plug in the diffuse into the color, and then this end will go into the principal BSDF. Now to change the color, I'm going to use this hue value here. I'm going to change this hue value, and you can see it changes the color. I'm going to make it 0.42, and then I'll change the saturation to 1.3. I'll change the value to 0.7 to darken it a bit. Let's select our plaque here. Let's go to the materials and rename it to gold. I'm going to click the base color and just decrease the saturation a bit. Now, if I look at my reference photo here, the lower parts of the wall are also red, and the inner parts right here in the frame are also red as well. So let's make this part red on our scene here. So with the wall selected, I'm going to go into edit mode and I'll deselect first. I'm going to start selecting the inside parts of each door frame. So I'm going to click and then I'll hold shift and keep selecting all the inside faces. I'm also going to select these lower parts right here. Okay, with all the inside faces selected, I'm going to go to the material tab here and hit this plus icon to add in a new material slot. Let's go and search for the light wood texture and we'll apply that. But nothing happened yet, and that's because we need to make sure we hit assign. And now it's changed. Now again, the texture looks a little too big, so let's go into edit mode again. Let's go to the shader editor, let's go to the UV editor. Then we'll hit U, and then we'll use Smart UV Project to unwrap them. Now they're nicely tidied up like this, and we can just increase the size till they look right. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, select your doorknobs, and we can change this material to the gold. Hit Edit, hit A, and then we'll do U, Smart UV Project. Okay, and then just apply the same textures on this side. So select your door here, and then we can go on the material properties and search for that light wood texture. There you go. But you need to go into edit mode and make sure all the faces are selected, and we'll hit U. We'll do cube projection. in the UV editor, A, and then R on your keyboard, and then 90 to rotate it, enter, and then we'll just scale it up. Select your doorknob, apply that gold material. Okay, looking good. Now we need to select our carpet. Let's go search for a casino carpet material. Enter. I'm going to use this carpet flooring right here. Click and drag onto your carpet. Okay, that's way too big, so let's go into edit mode. Let's hit U, and we'll do cube projection. Then we can just hit A and then S to scale. We also want to select the floor down here, and we can just apply that same redwood material. So search for lights, and then there it is. Again, go into edit mode, U, and we'll do cube projection. And we can just hit A and then S to scale up. Okay, the only thing left is the ceiling. So let's click on our ceiling. Let's search for ceiling lights. Enter. I want to use this office white ceiling lights, so I'll click and drag onto my ceiling object. Okay, hit Shift H on your keyboard to isolate it. Let's go to -Z view, and let's go into edit mode. Let's hit U, cube projection. Let's turn off overlays, hit A, and then let's hit S, and then we'll scale it till we like how it looks. Okay, that looks good like this. So I'm going to go and Alt-H on my keyboard to bring everything back. I was going to make this slightly bigger by hitting S and then X. Control-A, apply scale. We can collapse this window for now. Let's add in a camera. Shift-A, camera. Let's go into the camera view. So for average height, I'm going to do 1.7 meters. This is at eye level, approximately. I'm going to move it back. I'm going to change the focal length to 35 millimeters. Okay, in the next part, we'll be using the Eevee render engine, and I'll teach you how to model flickering wall lights to set up a haunted atmosphere. I will also show you how to do handheld camera animation. Again, if you don't want to wait, you can find this entire tutorial series on my Patreon. You can also download the entire project along with the monster running animation on my Patreon as well. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part. See you all in part 2.